This is a Flying Cow production.
Sup, losers? Here we are for another episode of the Hammer Sessions. That's right, the premier interview show that there is. And of course, I am the reason you are all here. The three-time movie battles champion, the Hammer, here for your viewing pleasure. And here by contractual obligation, Dr. Meggles. Meggles, how are you?
Yes, as you said, by contract, I am here.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to this interview.
I'm glad you are. Yeah.
Yes, I actually am.
Are you?
How about
That's
what? And
good.
who are we talking about?
Yeah, you know what? You guys let me choose the first guest, and I had a clear guest list, but I don't know who changed the format here. I don't know who changed the programming. This was not my choice. I just want to apologize to all of my fans out there. I wanted to talk to Coho and Cameron and all of our fan favorites out there, but of course they had to flip the script on me. And today we are talking to last year's tournament darling, the upset king himself, the Litigator, Loren Collins. Really, who made this guest list? And where is he?
This was
Loren?
something.
Loren, where are you, sir?
I'm right here, Mr. The Hammer. I'm right here.
Did you get lost? Did you get lost in the green room? It's not hard. You just push a button. See, why do we have this guy
I appreciate
here?
that he has come in with the proper attire. He's very well dressed, as I would expect from a litigator.
Thank you.
Very impressive. I know that the technical world can cause its problems, but there's a reason why the catchphrase for 2020 and 2021 has been I'm sorry, you're muted. So we're all trying to navigate this world together. So I'm just glad we're all here.
Yeah, okay. Now that
even you.
Now that we're done apologizing for our guest, Litigator, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fairly well. Right now, cases are going well. Glad to be back. Less glad to be here with you, to be perfectly honest, but glad to be here nonetheless.
Wow, that was boring. Oh, I really hope the rest of our audience is still awake. I am so sorry. Megs, maybe every time the rest of this, while the Litigator talks, one of us should juggle, just to keep things exciting.
I'll leave the circus act to you.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I am the only one here with talent. That makes sense. All right. So, obviously, Litigator, you are here because it is tournament season. And last year, you were just pulling miracles out of your butt. I just, nobody knew where they were coming from. Nobody thought you could win a match, but you did somehow. So we're here, I guess, to talk about, your illustrious career and all of your fluke wins. So let's go ahead and I guess we'll start with your first match, your debut in movie battles. I believe your first opponent was the Spaniard, David Garcia. It was both of your debut matches.
It was.
And boy, did he destroy you. He TKO'd you. And yeah, just, I mean, how much did that suck?
Well, I mean, it wasn't what I was hoping for, but I mean, to be perfectly honest, didn't have much, any experience with the show. Got to learn somewhere.
Yeah.
And,
in fact,
I understand that your opponent had played in other leagues prior to this.
Extensively.
Yes. So I feel like you were a little bit handed a little bit of a short straw there with having to go up against someone who, while you were both debuting here, he had more overall experience. So I understand that things might have taken you off guard in that first match.
Is this going to be the pattern, Meggles? Am I going to point out our guest shortcomings and then you're just going to apologize for them? Is that how this is going to work?
Trying to give an entire picture here, Hammer. I don't understand what you're wanting to just highlight on the little nitpicky things. I'm trying to get an overall scope here.
I'm sure your viewers would appreciate the context.
Yeah. Well, how's this context? You sabotaged yourself in that match. Oh, you spun movie quotes.
I did.
And you kept it.
I kept it.
How did that go?
Oh, I mean, in my defense, I'd never heard of your show before, so I hadn't watched it.
No.
I learned from experience.
And whose fault was that? Whose fault was that, Loren?
I know.
Would you go into a case without doing your homework? Would
Usually
you?
not by watching previous cases. Very, very rarely do you get to watch video of previous cases.
But if you could, would you?
Perhaps.
Just saying.
Yes.
Well, I think it is fair to say that you learned from the experience. I think anyone
did.
Yes, I think by evidence of the next several matches, actually, I think you very well learned your lesson.
Yeah. We know. He did better after that because, yes, he got TKO'd. And then, of course, nobody thought he was going to do anything after that. And then,
hey, if you win your very first match, you start off at 100%. You can only go down from there.
Is that a platitude you tell yourself a lot?
Not a lot, but when it happens, it's a helpful one.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good.
It's,
all right.
It's sound logic.
But yeah, okay. So yeah, your next match in the tournament, you took down the number 4 competitor at that time. I mean, what kind of ranking system were we using? Watkins. What kind of name is that anyway? I mean,
It's an easy one to remember.
The same name over.
You don't forget it.
No, you don't. You don't. But yeah, you took her down. I will say, impressive 5-point pull. Can't take that away from you. But yeah, you won that match. How shocked were you?
I mean, I'll confess that was that was a deep pull there at the end. I wasn't sure I was going to get it, but just pulled something from the depths of my memory, and fortunately, it played out well.
It did. Yeah, and then you won your second match, but your third match.
Oh wait, hold on. Who was that second opponent? The Hammer.
I don't remember.
You know what? If my records show correct, your boy, the king, Caleb Coho.
What was that thing we said about not talking about things that weren't important? Okay, I'm just saying. Let's compare Coho's record right now to Loren's. Okay, is that really relevant?
It's relevant because whether or not you believe it's an anomaly or not, it is something that was considered an upset at the time, and thus is part of the storied history of this man in tournaments as being the upset king, as you stated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
it's relevant.
You got lucky against the king, Caleb Coho. How lucky did you feel that day? Like all the luck? Is that what it took? All the luck?
No, I didn't feel lucky at all. I just felt we had a fair match.
That's funny. That's really okay. Okay, yeah. So, like I said, you got lucky against Coho, squeaked by a victory. And then you had your semifinal match against the heavily touted and lauded chart master Hannah Kiefer. Okay. And you won that match because she hadn't seen Soul. So I mean that's pretty thin. You got to admit. I mean, I'm not going to defend Hannah, but you got lucky there.
Perhaps I did. Nonetheless, it was satisfying. Her ignorance of Soul was something she knew coming in. She didn't fill that hole, and ultimately, there were consequences for that. I've had the same thing myself.
Yeah, you did.
I'm checking back in. How did you feel you were able to get a couple points worth of steals during that match to where you were actually ahead coming out of the to where you had closed the gap, I should say, coming into that third and final round, and ultimately with her missing those questions in that final round, you were able to come away with not having to answer your 5. How did that feel?
Well, that felt good. I will admit that. Hannah is obviously a very strong competitor. I felt very fortunate to end up in a position where I didn't have to, like you say, answer my 5. She put on a very good performance. I don't know if I can repeat that in the future, to be perfectly honest. But on that day, it worked out in my favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So you had a few lucky matches in a row, and then tournament finals. What happened? Oh man, you got knocked out in a tournament finals 5-round match. I mean, what
5-round match that you had not been exposed to, that you had no reference point to.
Again, excuses. What happened, Loren? What happened?
Oh, I'm afraid you'll need to refresh me on this.
So when you were coming in, she was ahead coming out of round 1. You actually both were able to come away with 7 points there in the second round. You both bet pretty conservatively in the betting round, but you were able to come out with some points. Weren't able to answer as many questions in the speed round, which unfortunately put you behind by 11 points, which did institute a knockout victory for you against Kelly. But again, knowing that the speed round was a format and a question format that you had not been accustomed to, were there challenges that you felt you weren't as well prepared for?
So first off, thank you for refreshing my recollection about that. Second, yes, now that I recall, the speed round was something I hadn't, experienced before. It wasn't something I could quite as easily practice on my own. There are obviously films, when you have holes in your knowledge, you can watch the film, you can study it. It is hard to study for a speed round independently. But I encountered that. I admittedly could have been done better on that first try. I will endeavor to do, now that I've experienced it once, I will endeavor to do better the next time I encounter it.
Yeah, that means that you get there again, Loren, which isn't guaranteed. Just saying. Then you had your next match, which was a triple threat, which you lost. I mean, there's 3 people, only 1 wins. That's a little harder. I get it, but you did lose to Hannah, somebody you had beaten before. I mean, how did you let that happen?
I mean, that's what happens in sports all the time. If you pay attention to them, is you lose the teams you played before and beat before. So yes, in that match, you're right. I did not come out at the top of 3. I believe I did come in second, however.
You did. Yes.
Yeah, but there's not really second place in a triple threat match. There's one winner.
Perhaps.
Everybody else loses. That's how that works.
He outlasted another competitor. He just didn't outlast a second competitor. That is what we take away from this.
right.
And this just means that we are potentially set up for a trilogy match, perhaps down the line. Loren will get the opportunity to face against Hannah a third time, and we will get to see who is the best of the 2 out of 3 matches.
That's 2 out of 3, exactly.
How
It's always something
interesting.
that's appreciated in sports.
2 losers really want to see who's the best. But look, okay, so this brings me to a point. Okay, look, not the biggest fan, but no one can argue. All right, in that tournament, you were rather impressive. You even argued that, yes, there's no second place in a triple threat match, but of the 3 competitors, you did the second best. But then, I mean, yeah, you had the elimination gauntlet. You actually got to the final 5 of the elimination gauntlet. I don't think you went very far, but you did get there. But looking over your record, you didn't have another singles match until just a couple months ago against my man Boatman.
Mhm.
I mean, I gotta be asking, because the guy that you admitted you actually bested in your triple threat match got not only a number 1 contenders match in Mad Dog Brian Nussbaum, but he also got a championship match. Where was your invitation?
I think the question you should ask of Mr. Boatman is if he was so excellent in that case, why did he lose to me previously?
I'm sorry, you never beat Caleb Boatman.
I'm
You beat
confused by the
Caleb
question. Coho,
but not Caleb Boatman.
All right.
But Boatman took you to school. I'm just saying.
Oh, I'm aware of that.
But I'm just curious. Why did the cow not use his? I mean, we all saw you helped the cow out quite a bit this year. Actually, did some legal wrangling to help him out against some of the stuff that I was doing. Why did he not give you a number 1 contenders match earlier? Why did he not give you a chance at a title match sooner? I'm curious. There seems to be.
I can't speak to his intentions. That would be a question for Mr. Cow.
That would be a question for Mr. Cow. It might be a question you want to ask. Just saying.
It's so I'd like to kind of rewind back ever so slightly about that match that you were alluding to with our esteemed guest here, Loren, against Caleb. Did he not take Boatman to the final round, which no one else did in this path?
Yeah. He made Boatman answer his 2. Good for him. Was he the only person to make him answer any questions in the 3rd round in that short path? Sure. But it was only his 2. I'm just saying.
Loren, is it not true in precedence that a TKO or a KO victory is often the more preferred method of oppositional takedown versus showing that you weren't quite dominant enough to not have to put any sort of fight in that final closing argument, I should say, of a case or a match?
That's certainly my understanding, and that seemed to be Mr. The Hammer's understanding from earlier when he was speaking about my first round against the Spaniard.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. No, you didn't get TKO'd, you didn't get knocked out, but you still lost. You lost pretty bad. Oh, but yeah, okay, yeah, but again, that was your last match. Before this, and again, not one you did very well in. I mean, if I were you, I'd be having some discussions with the cow. I'm just saying. But that does bring us to the present. We are, as I said, in tournament season. You were last year's tournament darling, the upset king, beating people you had no right to beat. And now you have this tournament before you. Do you feel like you're going to be repeating this performance, or do you think you might crash and burn?
I hesitate to make any predictions. Again, it's like when you go in for trial and you pick a jury, you don't know what the jury is necessarily going to do. They can sometimes surprise you. In this case, the jury is represented. It's this type of questions. Sometimes the questions may be ones in my ballpark and maybe in my opponent's. The luck of the draw in those cases could favor either one of us.
Very, very good. Very good. Okay. So yeah, look, your first match, you are taking on the fairest Amanda Van Heil. Now we know you don't do your homework, so I'm guessing you don't know how she plays. But I am curious, what do you think your chances are against Amanda?
Oh, I don't want to give Amanda any information right now that might help her.
Okay. All right. Very savvy.
Thank you.
Yes, I think that's a fair statement. Does knowing that you had this kind of darling upset performance bring any extra pressure coming into this tournament, or are you approaching this as you did in any other match? Is this any different, or are you maybe putting a little more pressure on yourself to live up to what has happened previously?
I mean, I would certainly prefer and would like to perform on par with how I did in the previous tournament. But on a personal, emotional level, I'm not invested in how that outcome. The important thing is to play each round like any given trial, see the outcome, and then move on appropriately.
Fascinating.
I think it's
you learn. Yes, you celebrate your victories and you learn from your mistakes.
And you have learned from your previous mistakes, and we shall see if you continue to improve upon what we have already seen. And definitely look forward to seeing what you have in store.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
Mr. the Hammer, is there anything else you have for me today?
No. I think that's good. Meggles, I get veto power next time. I'm just saying. Jeez. All right. So thank you, the Litigator, for that fascinating interview. So good. But we will be back next time, hopefully with a guest that won't put you to sleep. So join us next for the Hammer sessions. Until then, I'm done with you now. Go home. It's been your pleasure.
I'll be sending you a bill for my time.
You can send that to the cow. Or Meggles. That works too.